Waukesha's main street, barreling into marchers and families in the crowd. Here you can see the vehicle just missing a little girl dancing on the parade route.
People started screaming.
James Touchstone describes the moment he says he saw evil up close. He was shooting this video of his daughter's high school marching band when you can see the SUV suddenly swerve.
He was just plowing through people?
Yeah, he was no brake lights, no stopping, just plowing through people.
As the bands played their last notes, police cruisers were already racing down Main Street. One officer fired shots to try to stop the SUV.
How many victims were sort of on the floor?
There were so many people. There was just so many.
We have multiple casualties.
Tonight, 5 are dead, ranging in age from 52 to 81 years old. Virginia Sorensen, Jane Coolidge, Leanna Owen, Tamara Durand, and Wilhelm Hospital. 3 of the victims, part of the Milwaukee Dancing Grannies, along with one of their husbands.
What I would like is for everyone to remember how much joy they brought to everyone, how much they taught us, how much they taught us to enjoy dancing and being together and being a family.
48 others were injured. 18 kids were taken to Children's Wisconsin Hospital. 6 children remain in critical condition.
What I saw out of chaos and tragedy,
these motherfuckers hit the walking grannies, man.
first responders and the community coming together.
Main Street right now is one massive crime scene wrapped in this police tape, and you can tell how quickly the families here had to evacuate because there are abandoned strollers and kids' wagons, chairs spread out all along the parade route.
Tonight, a suspect is in custody. 39-year-old Daryl Brooks from Milwaukee.
Daryl?
Police say the incident began with a domestic
Daryl?
disturbance.
Why?
They say he has a long criminal history. Earlier this month, Brooks was charged with battery and domestic abuse after the mother of his child said he intentionally and without consent ran her over with his vehicle. He was released from jail just 11 days ago after posting a $1,000 bail, according to the Milwaukee District Attorney, who today called that inappropriately low, considering Brooks's criminal history. Tonight, the holiday parade, a 60-year-old tradition, will now forever be remembered for all the wrong reasons.
Tom, what is the next step now in this case against the suspect?
Yeah, that suspect, Daryl Brooks, is expected to appear before a judge tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. There's no final recommendation just yet on charges, but police say they are going to refer 5 counts of intentional homicide to the DA's office.
5 counts? I didn't know you can waive fucking criminal charges.
Arguments tonight in the murder trial of 3 men in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. Was it self-defense or was Arbery a black man under attack, as the prosecutors claim? Sam Brock is there tonight.
Tonight, 2 versions of a fatal sequence mostly captured on camera involving 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery and the 3 men charged with his murder.
Their decision to attack Ahmaud Arbery in their driveways because he was a black man running down the street.
He could have a gun, and he definitely has fists.
Arbery was spotted on surveillance video several times walking through a home under construction, but never observed committing any crime by Travis McMichael, Gregory McMichael, or Roddy Bryant, according to the prosecution. The shooter, Travis McMichael, claiming self-defense.
I shot him. Why? He had my gun. This is a life or death situation.
The prosecution quickly countering.
Then they shot and killed him. Not because he was a threat to them, but because he wouldn't stop and talk to them.
The defense says the pursuit came in the midst of a neighborhood-wide crime spree and alleged Travis McMichael tried multiple times to communicate with him peacefully.
Didn't take the gun out, shoot him in the back.
Defense
That's
attorneys
a
also
fucking
claim
skull
Arbery
from the
charged
inside.
Travis McMichael multiple times, forcing him to raise his gun. Now, outside this Georgia courthouse, members of the new Black Panther Party chant for accountability. And a grieving mom, listening to arguments, also heard this.
Turning Ahmaud Arbery into a victim after the choices that he made does not reflect the reality of what brought Ahmaud Arbery to Potola Shores in his khaki shorts with no socks to cover his long, dirty toes.
With that, an audible wow from Arbery's mother, who briefly left the courtroom.
Regardless of what kind of toenails he had, that was still my son. my son actually was running for his life.
Sam, when is the jury expected to get the case?
Deliberations, Lester, could begin as early as tomorrow afternoon. The prosecutor in this case expecting to use the full 2 hours for rebuttal, the last thing the jury will hear tomorrow morning. Lester.
All right, Sam Brock, thank you. And just developing tonight, the House committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riot has issued new subpoenas. Kristen Welker is at the White House. And Kristen, these are some high-profile allies of former President Trump.
That's right, Lester. The January 6th committee is widening its scope tonight, announcing the subpoenas of 5 witnesses the committee says helped organize the rally that preceded the attack on the Capitol. Now, among those on the list, Trump ally Roger Stone and far-right radio host Alex Jones. Both men spoke at the rally. In a statement, Stone said, quote, any statement, claim, insinuation, or report alleging or even implication that I had any involvement in or knowledge about the commission of any unlawful acts is categorically false. Jones is also responding tonight through his attorney, saying, quote, the First Amendment guarantees the right of assembly and the right to petition for redress of grievances. Congress's attempt to chill ordinary Americans in the exercise of these rights is terrifying. The fallout continues. Lester.
All right, Kristen, thank you. As we begin this Thanksgiving week, road travel is expected to hit its peak in coming days, and the TSA says it's already seen record numbers of air travelers. Tom Costello went behind the scenes at United Airlines to see how it is managing the rush.
2 years after the last big Thanksgiving homecoming, Americans are tonight on the move again, navigating rain delays in the Northeast and South Florida, from packed roadways to crowded airport terminals. Atlanta's airport, the nation's busiest, now back to normal after mass panic on Saturday when the TSA says a passenger grabbed a gun he'd left in a carry-on bag at a TSA checkpoint, causing it to discharge. Thousands of passengers ran, the FAA pausing aircraft operations on the ground. The suspect got away with his gun.
I think we're all a little stir-crazy at this point and willing to buck the crowds in order to get away.
Meanwhile, today is also the deadline for TSA officers to comply with the vaccine mandate. The agency says 93% of its officers are vaccinated or have requested exemptions and screened a pandemic record 2.2 million people on Friday, nearly as many on Sunday.
Good afternoon and welcome to United Flight.
Is in the thick of it to see their operations firsthand.
We're getting access to something most people never get to see in person.
They're giving them a long taxi seat all the way to Alpha 19 and back, so it'll be a while.
We were invited into United Airlines ramp tower, where controllers coordinate every single plane moving in and around United's concourses at O'Hare.
It's a tightly choreographed logistical ballet. 500 flights moving on the ground every day.
SkyWest 5415, Bravo 3.
Staffing in recent months, canceling thousands of flights, United insists it is staffed up with 99% of employees vaccinated.
We have our staff on the property, and one of the key things that we did throughout the pandemic is we didn't furlough any pilots.
That's allowed United to bounce back quickly from the pandemic as passenger traffic rebounded. Across the USA, the busiest days to fly this week will be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday.
SkyWest 31 to 45.
And tonight, the push is on.
And Tom, I want to get you back to Atlanta and that gunshot that went through the airport. Have authorities found that guy yet?
Still looking for him. His name is Kenny Wells, 42 years old. He is a known felon, and now multiple arrest warrants out for him, but so far, no sign of him, according to Atlanta police, Lester.
All right, Tom Costello, thank you. In just 60 seconds inside the new COVID surge as Americans travel for the holiday. And was she a visionary or a con artist? Elizabeth Holmes testifies in her fraud trial. We're back now with the race to vaccinate and boost Americans as families prepare to gather for the holidays. Authorities are stressing the importance of being protected as COVID cases skyrocket in some parts of the country. Here's Miguel Almaguer.
Tonight, the warning signs are clear in pockets of the country. A crushing new wave of COVID cases is already eclipsing last winter's deadly surge. As the U.S. closes in on 100,000 new cases a day, more than half the nation is now recording a rise in new infections.
We're far over capacity and really working hard to care for all of you.
In parts of the Midwest, the Department of Defense is sending medical teams to relieve exhausted frontline workers.
What do you anticipate in the weeks and months ahead?
You know, I'm afraid that what we're seeing here in Michigan is probably just a foreshadowing of what we'll see across the country.
With inoculation numbers still climbing, 95% of federal workers, nearly 3.5 million employees, met today's vaccine mandate deadline.
Stay nice and relaxed.
But the majority of new shots into arms are boosters, not new vaccinations.
Infections among the unvaccinated continue to drive this pandemic, hospitalizations, and death.
Even with COVID cases climbing 32% among children, it's not fear but holiday cheer most families are thinking of.
Everyone's tested and everyone's being as careful as possible.
Compared to this time last year, massive lines for COVID testing are all but gone as we mark our first holiday season with vaccinations widely available.
I'm so happy I could cry. I really am. It's like the end of a really long, just crazy past 2 years.
Tonight, even as our nation faces troubling days ahead, there are reasons to be grateful. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
Also tonight, 2 hostages from a U.S. missionary group kidnapped by a gang in Haiti last month have been freed. Christian Aid Ministry says they are safe and in good spirits. The FBI says it is deeply engaged in efforts to free the other 15 hostages. In a California courtroom, one-time Silicon Valley star Elizabeth Holmes was on the stand for a second day, testifying in her own high-profile fraud trial. Kristen Dahlgren is following.
Today, the jury hearing from Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes in her own words, fighting back against fraud and conspiracy charges by telling jurors she thought her blood testing device was a really big idea and describing clinical results as excellent. Holmes has pleaded not guilty to charges she defrauded investors by lying about Theranos technology, saying it could run a range of tests on just a few drops of blood.
We'd like to see a world in which every person gets access to this type of basic testing.
The company, once valued at $9 billion, put Holmes on the cover of magazines, backed by big names like the Walton family and Rupert Murdoch. But the prosecution has tried to paint a picture of a con woman who knew the device didn't work. Defense documents indicate they'll argue Holmes' former partner and boyfriend, Sunny Bilwani, was pulling the strings, in spite of Holmes once saying the buck stopped with her.
Anything that happens in this company is my responsibility at the end of the day.
Bilwani's lawyers say he adamantly denies wrongdoing.
Elizabeth Holmes has a long history of charming, knowledgeable, influential people, so it stands to reason that her attorneys think she can also charm 12 jurors sitting in front of her.
Holmes' testimony is expected to continue tomorrow, when the prosecution may get a chance to question the woman who hopes she is her own best witness. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News.
We've got more to tell you about up next. Getting the items you want this holiday season. Our exclusive interview with Walmart CEO. Could their advantage leave small businesses with empty shelves? Shocking video out of the San Francisco area. A flash mob of about 80 people storming a Nordstrom's department store, stealing merchandise and speeding away. Only 3 people arrested so far. And last week near Chicago, police say 14 people looted $120,000 worth of merchandise from a Louis Vuitton store. No arrests have been made. Now to our series, Race to Deliver, all about the big issues facing holiday shoppers this year. Tonight, our exclusive with the CEO of Walmart U.S. on keeping up with demand in the middle of the supply chain crisis. Here's Stephanie Rule.
With only days before Black Friday and the holiday season kicking into high gear, shoppers are ready. After worries that must-have gifts would be hard to find because of supply chain disruptions, many Americans started shopping earlier. Now, the nation's largest retailer tells NBC News Walmart is ready.
Our team has been extremely creative the last few months in figuring out how to manage some of the shortages and congestion in the supply chain. Our inventory was up over 11% at the end of the quarter.
That included chartering their own ships to bring in goods from overseas. Target and Costco did the same. And similar to other retailers, Walmart says it's buying more products here in the U.S.
We had committed to buying an additional $250 billion of product that's either made, manufactured, or assembled in the U.S.
Yet many local retailers struggle with getting everything they want. Heidi Fenstermacher co-owns Out There Outfitters in Pennsylvania.
We are at the mercy of the brands that we carry and the vendors and how they're getting product to us. These big box stores or corporations that are getting their own cargo ships, I mean, they get what they want. So that is a disadvantage for us that we're trying to work around.
In addition, she worries about rising costs. Walmart is too, but with its size and profits, it can absorb some of those costs. As for the consumer,
how much do you think we're struggling?
Well, we really see a strong consumer around the country. Certainly we see strong demand. We know that incomes are higher than they were a year ago. We think that customers are generally in pretty good shape as we go into the holidays.
While this holiday may be tough for some Americans and small businesses, many retailers are booming as consumers keep shopping. Stephanie Rule, NBC News.
Up next, you'll meet an innovative farmer rooted in his community and inspiring America.